Hey everybody, Griever here to do my very first One Piece theory slash discussion video. This one, of course, as you can tell by the thumbnail and the title, is going to be about Kaido, one of the Yonko. Now, before I say that, this is not going to be a reoccurring necessarily thing. I'm not jumping onto the One Piece bandwagon or anything quite yet. Certainly I'm going to wait until Whole Cake Island, which is not one of my more favorite arcs, is wrapped up until I might, start with significant chapters. I might jump in and do a review now and then, because One Piece is something that I really love, and I know a lot of other people are doing it. That's why I'm trying to kind of steer away from it for right now, because there's so many other better content creators who make better videos about it than me. But I just wanted to bring this one up because I've seen a lot about Kaido and the mystery surrounding Kaido and what's his power, what's his devil fruit, does he have a devil fruit, all these things. And the theories are kind of boring. For the most part, everyone goes on about the same, that he's got the Oni Oni no Mi, and that's basically where it ends. No one really delves into other possibilities that I could find right offhand anyways. So I thought it'd be fun to do a quick video to start off, the new year with this kind of stuff and start bringing you guys more content. So with that being said, this is going to be the 5 theories about Kaido's devil fruit potential or power that he's got. This is going to be the 5 theories that I've come up with. I also found a little bit of backing on the internet, of course. I went on forums and stuff to find what other people thought, anything that I thought was a good idea. But for the most part, some of these are my own design, and some of them are, of course, been made by other people. So anyways, with that being said, guys, let's get started with the video. So to start off with the very first theory, guys, we're going to just do the very popular one, the one that's been kind of overstated at this point, and that's the fact that Kaido ate the Oni Oni no Mi, the demon fruit, the devil fruit, whatever translation you want, or whatever Oda may or may not call it. But this theory simply states that Kaido ate this fruit, and that is reminiscent of the fact that he's got the very classic 2 horns of an Oni. He's got the 9 invincibility / immortality of an Oni. He's got enormous size. He's, the giant club that he's seen wielding in one shot there, which it looks like a Kenobi or a Kenobe. I'm not really sure how they pronounce that word in Japanese, but that's simply the iron club. It's very, classic, with the representation of the big classic humanoid-like monster, which is, of course, a demon or Oni in Japanese folklore. Now, there is actually a translation, the Oni ni Kenobi, or Kenobe, once again, not very good at pronunciation, but that literal translates to Oni with an iron club, but actually, I guess, means to be invincible or undefeatable. Now, that would be very reminiscent of the current state of Kaido as far as we know in the story. So there is some evidence to back this up. A little twist on the theory that I like is the fact that I've heard a Sea King theory and things like that, but I like the fact that potentially that he didn't just eat the Oni Oni no Mi, but this is a mythical zone of the human variety. Same with Sengoku's, which was the Buddha. It's a actual type 1, and he was originally a ox or a bison or some type of animal. That would explain as to why Whitebeard was considered the strongest man in the world, while Kaido still held the title at the same time as the strongest creature, because originally, like Chopper, he was an animal who ate a devil fruit and not necessarily a human. I mean, there are other things he could be. He could be a tribe we've never seen before, a type of species we've never seen. He could be a mink. He could be, as I said, a Sea King, a giant, half giant, something like that. But I go with the ox bison theory simply because when I first saw Kaido revealed, it reminded me of Buffalo Man from Kinnikuman Man or Ultimate Muscle. Right off the bat, I didn't see an Oni. I saw Buffalo Man. I saw a really badass looking version of Buffalo Man. So that's basically that theory. There's not a whole lot to say. There are plenty of other videos on that go further in depth into the Oni Oni no Mi idea, but what do you guys think of the little twist that potentially he was an actual creature or animal similar to Chopper's situation, and he ate the mythical zone version of, same with Sengoku's, but a different variety, whether it is the Oni some other type of human, the ox head, which is a very famous deity who guards the underworld and supposedly invincible and stuff like that. What do you guys think of that little twist there? And with that being said, we'll just move on to theory number 2. Theory number 2 doesn't have a whole lot of basis. I've seen this one around before, and that's a fact, and this is not something I came up with, though I can understand why people think it, and it's that he ate a dragon-type devil fruit, once again, a mythical zone. I think everyone's stating the fact that there's no way he's a Logia or a Paramecia because he's Kaido of the Beasts. He's been making artificial zones. His whole thing is beasts and zone-type fruits, so no one really has a theory where if he has a devil fruit, it's got to be a zone, some form of zone, whether it's an ancient zone, a mythical zone, something like that. It's definitely a zone. So a lot of these theories base itself on that. But I think a dragon is going a little far, and the only basis I could find for this little theory was the fact that his immortality. Now, once again, I've said the word immortality in the first theory, and I just want to clear the air right now, is that Kaido is not necessarily immortal. There's no evidence to suggest Kaido is immortal, and that is because people, kind of swap. I'm kind of forgetting the word I really want to use for this, but they interchange invulnerability and immortality too frequently because they are not the same thing. Immortality is, for a quick reference point, would be the elves from Lord of the Rings. If the elves in Lord of the Rings were, as everyone's been stating, if that was the same thing, then Lord of the Rings would not have happened. Why couldn't they just take an elf and go, okay, go storm the Dark Tower because you can't die? Well, no, because elves are immortal, means they will not die from old age. As long as they are not slain in battle or disease or something like that, they will live forever. But it does not make them invincible or invulnerable. And these terms are swapped a little too much. So I just want to state right now is there is no evidence that Kaido is actually immortal. He's simply invulnerable or invincible. Would Kaido die if we went 500 years in the future? Would he die from old age? We don't know that either. But as far as what we currently know is that he's actually invulnerable, not necessarily immortal. So that being said, dragons are, I guess, revered to be immortal or invulnerable. So that term can kind of be swapped out pretty easily. The only other real explanation people had for this was dragon scale tattoos on his arm and his shoulder and stuff, which do, they do resemble the dragon scales of the classic Chinese style dragons and stuff. So there is that. And also his Shenron-like mustache people are referring to. The fact that it does the wave like Shenron from Dragon Ball Z. But there wasn't a whole lot of basis for this theory, and honestly, even though I think the Oni theory is kind of boring, that people have figured it out, and now where's the mystery of Kaido when we do find out? The dragon one to me doesn't hold very much water. It's not really a theory that has a whole lot of basis other than those 3 traits. The fact that he's got a tattoo that could be dragon scales representation, the fact that he has some level of invulnerability, and that he's got a mustache designed similar to, by that logic, every person with that style of mustache in manga is a dragon of some variety. So I don't think this theory holds much water. So let's move on to a more exciting theory, which would be theory number 3. So in theory number 3, and this is one of my more favorite theories out of the 5 that I was able to come up with for this video, is that I've never heard anybody talk about the simplicity of, what about a mythical zone fruit that's a behemoth style? We've already seen the phoenix and the Buddha. Why not behemoth? Why not the beast? The beast that's been referred to. I mean, if you look it up, there are plenty of mangas and animes and not just them, but comic books and stuff that base on the fact, the god or the creature of the sea being Leviathan, and of course the god of the earth or ground, the strongest animal, the biggest, the most powerful creature being Behemoth. Behemoth and Leviathan, 2 sides of the same coin, yin yang, that kind of idea. But no one seems to bring up the fact of Behemoth, and it holds a lot of weight, more so to me than the Oni no Mi, because you have, for one thing, Behemoth is considered the most powerful land creature. He's huge might. He's apparently going to be at the end cause. Him and Leviathan are supposed to fight and cause an end war, end times. That seems very reminiscent of the fact that Kaido wants to start the biggest war. He's looking for a war. That's very reminiscent of Behemoth's purpose as far as the mythology of that. He's also considered the primal, unconquerable monster of the land, and these are just things that I was able to find, is that this is what Behemoth is considered, and at a certain time of year, I guess, Behemoth lets out a loud roar that makes all animals tremble with fear, and thus renders them less ferocious for a whole year. As a result, weak animals live in safety away from the outreach of wild animals. This mythical phenomenon is shown as an example of divine mercy and goodness. Without Behemoth's roar, however, traditions narrate animals would grow wild, more ferocious, and they go around butchering each other and humans. This kind of goes up and down a little bit, whereas, talking about divine mercy and goodness, but I like to take away from the fact that Behemoth, rules over all creatures. He roars and everyone sits down. Everyone, it's like the massive sit to all the dogs of the world. And as the leader of Kaido of the 100 Beasts, Kaido, the one who his entire crew, he's Kaido of the Beast Pirates, he's Kaido the Beast, he's the strongest creature. There's so much parallels and similarities to the Behemoth legend that it to me it outweighs just a generic Oni. Like, sure, the Oni is a big thing, but Behemoth is the epitome of the strongest creature in our real world mythology. So being the strongest creature and all that. And of course, Behemoth has been referred to as the Beast before in multitudes. And of course, you can have people theorizing in different texts of Jewish and Christianity and stuff in reference to this. But at the end of the day, I find that this is one of the better theories. It holds a little more than a lot of the other stuff I found, and I'm wondering why no one's brought up Behemoth before that I could find anyways. Maybe someone has, and if you have, I apologize, link me to your video, but I think the Behemoth mythical zone fruit makes the most sense, because that would explain as to why he's nigh invulnerable, why he's considered the strongest creature, why he wants to start the big war, and Behemoth described simply the primal unconquerable monster of the land. You could switch Behemoth for Kaido in that sentence and no one would question it. So I'm just saying that this theory holds a little more weight to me than any of the other theories. Now, theory number 4, guys, is kind of controversial, and there's not a whole, once again, this is a theory that does not hold a whole lot of water, and it's the fact that he does not have a devil fruit power. He does not have a devil fruit power. There's no evidence to say he does or he doesn't currently in the story, and he's simply a strange force of nature, potentially. Something like accustomed to Big Mom or Whitebeard. We know for a fact that Big Mom is not necessarily, no one's actually stated that she's a giant necessarily. She seems to be a force of nature, an anomaly. Like, she wasn't born from giant parents as far as we know. We don't actually know where Big Mom came from. Why is she like the way she is? Why does she go into these crazed hunger pains that makes her insanely powerful enough to take on the giants of Elbaf? Or Whitebeard, for example. Whitebeard, even without the Gura no Mi, is still considered the strongest man in the world, and look like his immense size, like he is an unnaturally big man. Of course, this is a bit of a weak theory, because now we're getting into the fact that, okay, so you got Big Mom, who's an anomaly, just a rare one-off type of person, she's not necessarily, this is why she's so strong. Then you have Whitebeard with the same idea. Then you have Kaido with the same idea. And then of course you have Blackbeard being, okay, he's a human, but his body's a little different, he's unique. So, I understand Yonko are supposed to be exceptional and of course unique characters, but to make them all like their own separate little entity, their own separate little one-off, one-of-a-kind race sort of deal, is that's stretching it a little thin to make them all like that, because as we've seen, one of the most beloved Yonko is still Shanks, and he's, as far as we know, is simply a human from, just from a town, he's nothing necessarily special in that regard as far as we know currently. So Of course, this is still a bit of a weak theory, but this could explain, though, about his suicidal tendencies for Kaido, because he wants to die, and a lot of people bring up the fact that why doesn't he just throw himself in the ocean, and people try to justify that. I've heard the argument that, oh, he wants to go it a certain way. He doesn't want to suffocate himself or burn in a fire or things like that. No. He wants to actually be killed, like an instant death, not this slow, painful trudging on thing. I find that kind of weak. Or he wants to be defeated and slain in combat, all that kind of stuff. The only thing that this theory holds is the fact that if he did not have a devil fruit, the ocean wouldn't really affect him in that regards anyways, so he wouldn't he wouldn't really be able to drown himself. Assuming the fact that, like the guillotine breaking and jumping from Sky Island and stuff, if those things don't kill him, why would a non-devil fruit user, why would it be so unbelievable that he could jump in the ocean and hold his breath forevermore? Like, maybe that wouldn't kill him if he did not have a devil fruit. Another thing is brought up is the sea prism stone. Why doesn't he, shoot himself with a bunch of bullets to the head with that stuff? I mean, of course, that is a very rare item, and maybe Kaido doesn't really necessarily know about it, but I find that very hard to believe. So that's really the only part that this theory really has any weight to, is the fact that this would explain as to why Kaido has been unsuccessful in committing suicide, when, as we know from devil fruit users, they have their weaknesses that would be quite easy to exploit. If you really wanted to go and kill yourself, it should be fairly easy. But of course, that doesn't necessarily say anything, because we don't really know about Kaido's power yet. What do you guys think of that theory? It's not my favorite one either, but tell me what you guys think of that in the comment section below. So the fifth and final theory I have for you guys today is that Kaido is part of a theme that Oda does like to use, which is, of course, is the Momotaro theme. Momotaro is a Japanese folklore hero. He's in plenty of stories and stuff, sometimes referred to as Peach Boy and things like that. But this theory goes on to say that Momonosuke represents Momotaro, who went to find 3 allies, being a monkey, a dog, and a bird, and together they defeat 2 demons, which are referred to as an ox and a tiger. Now, this theme has already been used before by Oda, according to what I was able to read. Now, necessarily whether he meant to do this is really unknown. I don't think it was ever actually stated by him, but the monkey, the dog, and the bird are already represented by the 3 admirals, Kizaru, Akainu, and Aokiji, and the ox and the tiger are Green Bull and Fujitora. So a lot of people can't see Oda doing the same thing again. Now, the problem I have with this is that if that's the case, then who's Momotaro in this? So you have your 3 allies, fine, but Kizaru, Akainu, and Aokiji are not going against Green Bull and Fujitora. So even though he might have referenced the same animals potentially here, he hasn't really, it doesn't make a whole lot of concrete sense, because there's no representation of, Kizaru, Akainu, and Aokiji banding together. In fact, right now, of course, as we know, Akainu is not one of the 3 admirals. He's now the fleet admiral. Kizaru remains the same as an admiral, so that works. But Aokiji has already left after fighting with Akainu and is gone on to, join the Blackbeard parts, as far as we know. But there's the theory he's actually a revolutionary spy and blah, blah, blah. But anyways, he's no longer part of that. And why would the ox and the tiger, being Green Bull and Fujitora, fight against Kizaru, Akainu? Like, it kind of breaks down. The representation is fine, but the actual theme of the story doesn't really make sense. Whereas with the 3 allies to defeat 2 demons works very heavily when you consider a monkey being Luffy, a dog being Inuarashi, and a bird being Marco. And together they defeat the 2 demons that look like an ox. Kaido, which I already referenced in the first theory, reminded me very heavily of Buffalo Man, or to me, it wouldn't put it past it that would be a great design for a buffalo, an ox, a bison, something like that managed to eat, a mythical zone fruit and turn into Kaido, for example. So the representation of an ox is very easy, and a tiger being the Shogun. Now, a tiger being the Shogun, I mean, how many references to Japanese movies do I need to bring up to say that tigers are very revered in Japan? They're considered, the king of the jungle and all that stuff. They more so than lions and stuff. Tigers are always on a lot of their banners and stuff. Last Samurai brings it up as a representation of following the white tiger. White tiger is brought up in a lot. I forget. It begins with a B. I'll put it right here. But it's a legendary white tiger of one of the four winds. And that's represented very heavily in Asian mythology a lot of the time. So I just find that this very much better suits, not that the representation of the 5 animals is not already represented by the admirals, but the whole animals referenced along with the story references make a lot more, they hold more weight, they seem to fit better with this idea where, going to Wano, which is, Momotaro, which is Japanese folklore, going to Wano, which is very heavy feudal Japan-esque, Momonosuke travels to find 3 allies, defeat 3 demons. It all just makes a lot of more sense. Now, some of you might say, okay, so even if you can agree with me that the ox is Kaido, fine, and the tiger represents the shogun very well as the leader of feudal Japan, where the tiger was very revered, why Luffy no question, Luffy, okay. But a dog being Inuarashi and a bird being Marco, well, a dog being Inuarashi, that's very easy because Inuarashi is, of course, one of the leaders of the Mink tribe, which is already in a feud against Kaido. They're already there to be allies against the war in Wano against Kaido. That was already stated. There's not really a whole lot of argument there. Do you have a better representation of a dog in the One Piece world that is going against Kaido and is going to join Luffy and help Momonosuke? Then I'm open to interpretation there, but Inuarashi fits that bill to a T for me. So the last one is one of the most controversial, but I think this is brought up perfectly in this image right here, which we got from chapter 890, I believe, which represents the Chinese calendar or whatever, the Chinese zodiac, and bringing in the new year and such. And we see everyone was kind of confused at first, but then we realized it's the representation of the Chinese zodiac, and Marco is clearly seen right here in this image. Now that doesn't hold a lot of weight, but Luffy, Inuarashi, and Marco all just happen to be here when we're jumping into the new arc next year, and we're starting off the new year. This is a kind of a promotional image for starting off the new year, and we happen to see these 3, and Marco, of course, could very potentially be in Wano. Marco has been hinted to be in Wano a couple of times, and it's time, like Edward Weevil's supposed to show up, and he's after Marco, and Marco represents the Phoenix, the actual, and represents Whitebeard in a lot of ways. So, Marco ended up helping Luffy and Inuarashi to defeat Kaido, or at least free Wano. Isn't that far of a stretch in my mind. There are some plot holes there. I mean, you can argue a lot of the fact that, well, why would Marco isn't necessarily even going to be in Wano. Marco might not even want to help them. For all we know, Marco's dead. Now, I don't believe Marco's dead, but that is a possibility because we don't actually know what happened in the revenge war there with the Blackbeard pirates. So there's quite a few theories you can go by here, but at the end of the day, this theory is a little more out there, and it doesn't necessarily explain what Kaido is or what his devil fruit is, but it does give some credence as to what if he represents an ox, that brings a lot more theories back to the fact that he represents an ox, which means he, ate some type of ox-related devil fruit, or he was an ox that ate a human mythical zone fruit. I keep jumping back to that, but that's basically what it is. All of these kind of tie together, but do you notice how it keeps coming back to ox or bison or something like that? There's a lot more references to that. Behemoth has also been referenced as something with 2 big tusks, as sometimes referred to as a water buffalo or an elephant or something with giant tusks and stuff. And just one more credence to add to this is the fact that we've already seen that we have a mammoth zone underneath Kaido. Now, what if Kaido is supposed to have a mythical zone fruit and is supposed to represent a beast, and Oni is a demon, remember, a demon is not an animal, it's not a beast. What to you guys would be the ultimate king of beasts? What would be, the leader of 100 beasts? And we're representing, mammals and giant animals and carnivores and other things like that. To my mind, you have a lion and a T-Rex. What's the mythical version of that? Representing Buddha and, the Phoenix being Marco and Sengoku? Behemoth. the strongest creature, the strongest animal to ever exist, potentially. Once again, mythical. Same with Phoenix and stuff like that, not necessarily existing as far as we know, but does hold credence there if it is a mythical zone type fruit. And I don't think anybody can debate that if Kaido has a devil fruit, it's got to be mythical or ancient of some description. So that's the end of the video, guys, and those were my top 5 theories as to Kaido's power and place in the story. What did you guys think of all the theories? I know some of them were a little weaker, but I didn't want to just jump in with 1 or 2 theories. I wanted to make a video that had, you know, at least 4 or 5 theories to kind of break the ice a little bit, jump around the place, and look at things from all types of perspectives. Which theory did you like the best? Does everyone disagree with the other 4 theories and just say, no, he's clearly theory number 1, the popular one that all the everyone else has figured out, it's already the Oni no Mi, like, you know, there's nothing special about it. That takes away the mystery for me a little too much, and I like to still make these type of videos. You know, until we know the answer, I mean, there's still room for debate, discussion, and theory, of course. Let me know what you guys thought in the comment section below. Which theory did you agree with, if you agreed with any? If you have your own theory and you want to add the 6th theory to this video, please post your theory in the comment section below and back up, you know, why you believe that these 5 are wrong and yours is right. I always like to hear from you guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. This has been Griever with your One Piece theory discussion video on Kaido and his devil fruit powers. We will see you back here next time for another hopefully One Piece discussion video if this one works out pretty well. So thanks guys for watching so much. We'll see you next time.